and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live. A bit unusual this week because it's the first week that the Crows have not featured on the weekend, but nevertheless we push on, plenty to talk about. And as usual, I'm joined by Peter. How you going, Pete?
Hey, mate, how you going? Good to have you along. Good to have you along, Nikki. And welcome everybody to Tuesday Night Live. We're still going, and just because the season stopped, we haven't turned the lights out. So plenty to talk about tonight, and we'll jump straight into news and get cracking.
I hate you, Pete.
I just each week I just see if I can just get that done a little bit quicker, just shave a second or two off the time.
And you still catch him out every single time. It's glorious.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there was apparently something on last night, or whatever, and some bloke in his debut season 1. Oh, yay. Thought I'd get that out there.
Yeah, moving along.
Just get it over. Yeah, moving along. But Rory, well done on the top 5 finish that he made in the Brownlow, and well done to Belinda, who hosted the pre-season, the red carpet thing quite nicely. It's lovely as it's. But yeah, whatever. We're nearly there.
She did really well, actually. I thought she was a pretty natural presenter, isn't she?
Yeah, she is, and that's what she's been working towards. And I actually think she was definitely one of the best dressed there last night. But we could talk about what happened on Friday night, where we had our club champion, where Sloaney came away with his second gold jacket. But I did like some of the other awards that were handed out earlier, which I thought were quite interesting. For those who don't know, that Luke Carey was our SANFL captain, was the Dean Bailey Award winner. John O'Beach, which Pete would be very pleased about.
Again? What's the Dean Bailey Award again?
Hang on, I'll pull it up.
You're
going to get me on music. I'm going to get you on bloody details.
I was going to say, you're going to get your aim back now.
Yeah, he is, the little bugger. So it's for the season's best development player, assessing their on-field performance, dedication to training, and overall commitment to the team. So last year was Matthew Spencer. I actually thought Spriggs might have been a good chance, but I mean, Carey worked very well as the captain of an SANFL team, and apparently took it on his chin whenever he got dropped because we couldn't fit him in the side, and he pretty much epitomised the whole idea of team in doing so. So well done for him. And what were the other ones? So we had John O'Beach.
Talk about it. And that was a really good win. Good on him. He's a great lad and has fully deserved his chance to be on an AFL list. And let's hope that he can progress next year. I'm not quite sure whether he will or not. Phoenix, I'm interested in your thoughts there. He is... Is that they're the only thoughts you've got, mate? Interested in your thoughts on John O'Beach and where he sits on the list. As much as I want to see him get a crack, I'm just not quite sure there's a spot for him. But anyway, we'll chat about that.
Yeah, I mean, my main thought is he's probably a backup for McGovern in that sort of role, or Lynch, I suppose.
Or even Eddie.
Yeah, a pincher. He plays slightly different to Eddie, but you probably chuck, Cameron or Miller in Eddie's role before you looked at Beach. But he's good overhead, and he's got a good kick, and he's strong in the contest. So, it's a shame that we just got a bit of a richness of talent in that particular position at the moment. Otherwise, he'd be getting a run.
No, that is quite good. The other one so we had Lever as an emerging talent, and they combined that with the Mark Bickley Award, and I still don't quite know where the difference between those two things are, but yeah, they're now one and the same. And this, I think, got a few people riled up on the board that David McKay was awarded the Brian Sando Award, which is about elite preparation, so on and off the field. And Sloaney on his... You're having fun with this little dingling. Sloaney got the Coaches Award.
This is the Crowcast equivalent to Mad Monday.
I know, because there's only the three of us, the diehards. Actually, it's pretty much... Yeah, it's pretty much the original... Yeah, it's almost the original crew. And the other one who shall be nameless. Hi, Waffle. So Sloaney got the Coaches Award, the 19th Man Award, and of course the Gold Jacket. Betts, and I thought this was absolutely brilliant, the Phil Walsh Best Team Man Award, and also probably one of the best speeches for the night. And he of course had the goal kicking. Who else? And then of course there was the club champion. Now the top 10 was really interesting.
The top 10 was interesting because of who didn't feature highly within that top 10, I thought.
Well, yes and no. So you had Sloane on 268, Betts on 249, which gave him a real good push. Tom Lynch on 215, Talia at 192, Taylor Walker at 185, Smith at 183, Matt Crouch at 180, and I love this one, Kyle Hartigan at 173. Charlie Cameron did really well, and as somebody pointed out, his the points that he managed to score from the coaches against the top 8 sides, and particularly against the top 4, was quite excellent. So I think that thing that we talked about last week, that he seemed to be a big game player, that the votes seemed to show that out, that the coaches were very pleased with that. And of course, Josh Jenkins at 165. So you've got Betts, Lynch, Walker, Cameron and Jenkins. So 5 of the top 5 are our forwards.
Yeah, but that's actually not necessarily a good thing. And I think that, what was shown up in the BNF and what was shown up in the Brownlow, of course, as well as just the complete lack of midfield presence that we had all year, really. And one of the things that I noticed, and I think that, Fian, you're absolutely dead on with the fact that it was about who finished outside of the top 10, not who finished inside. And that is, when you look at our 4 most experienced players who all occupy midfield or midfield-related positions, and these are your 4 guys that, when the chips are down or when you need a momentum change, these are the guys you should be able to rely upon to say, right, let's get in the guts and let's turn this thing around. And that is Jacobs, Thompson, Douglas and McKay. And all 4 of those guys didn't finish in the top 10. And, they're the kind of guys that if you're going to have a successful season and you're going to play in grand finals, they're the kind of guys with their experience and the positions that they play that must be finishing in top 10 and must be taking games by the scruff of the neck. But they just can't, and they're never going to.
No, I think you're right there, Pete. They're never going to. And the players that we're talking about are senior blokes, Tomo and Dougie and those sorts. They've had enough chances, and really the club can't rely on these guys any longer to be the go-to midfield engine. And, with plenty of discussion on various forums and whatnot about what the answer is. But I'm with you. I think the best and fairest was really telling in terms of how our coaches, didn't rate our midfield performance terribly highly. Sloaney and Crouch, Matt, were basically the 2, and after that it fell away pretty quickly. So I think that's a fair indicator of what we're going to see in terms of draft and trade activity from the club, because if the coaching staff don't rate the midfield, obviously the coaching staff are going to be wanting to do something about it.
Well, you can then... That kind of leads into who we did actually 2 delistings on Friday. And it was very interesting that we did it before the Club Champion Award. So it kind of let everybody know this is the last time you're going to see these guys, etc. I think a couple of other times we've waited till the Monday after it and then done it. So they might have been told beforehand, but it didn't come out until afterwards. I was a little bit sad to see Ramsey dropped, because I do think he probably won't make a consistent AFL player, but I think there was enough there for depth. But I did find that it was interesting dropping him and dropping Loudon, which to me says we've got our eyes on another ruckman somewhere.
We must have,
Yep.
because we are so light on. Now we've got Jacobs,
Yeah.
who's a dinosaur. We've got Rob, who's untried, and we've got Paul Hunter, who's probably not going to be
who's
around the mark. So that's
Well,
a
not
really
yet.
good point. It's a really good point, Nikki. We must have our eyes on a ruckman somewhere.
Yeah, so Hunter is a mature age rookie. Rob's developing nicely. We got him through the draft, so he's kind of that younger one coming through as well. But we did see in those 2 games, and he actually, as club champion, scored very nicely for those 2 games that he did play. So the club did rate what he was able to do. And I think, remembering back to us watching it, we were quite pleased with what we saw from him. So I think we're okay with that. So I wonder whether we've got an eye on somebody in the draft maybe for another younger one coming through.
It's interesting. I reckon backup ruckman is the domain of mature age rookies. I wouldn't mind betting we've got someone in mind from either the Sandful or the VFL.
Because the other one is, who's the Stewart guy who plays on the wing, but they also put him in the ruck?
Not Lena.
Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. Leonard?
Lena.
Yeah.
I don't.
I wonder whether, because he's a very tall wingman, but they do play him in the ruck, so don't know there. But the other thing is dropping Ramsey is that, does that mean that are we going to push up a Greenwood? Are we going to push up a Keith? Maybe.
I would hope
onto the main list.
I would certainly hope that we're looking at pushing up Greenwood.
Oh, I think possibly we will. I mean, he's not the swingman that Ramsey was, because Ramsey could play forward and back. The other interesting thing is that we do know that Sam Shaw still has a year to run on his contract, and nothing's been said about whether he's going to retire out because of his concussion issues or what's happening there. That's the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, that you thought if there was going to be possibly some movement there, the announcement might have been made to do with that as well around the same time.
The currently out of contract actually makes interesting reading. We've still got Scotty Thompson, despite all the chatter around he's got a 1 year in front of him. That hasn't been done yet. Cole Chaney's the interesting one. He hasn't been done yet. Jared Lyons, Mitch Greig, Harry Deer and Harry Wigg. Generally speaking, if you're not signed up, you're on the table. So there's a couple of interesting names amongst that lot.
I know Wiggy's safe.
And I would say Deer is as well.
I know that.
Club's
very Wigg
very
one
bullish
I know
on
for
Deer.
a fact. Sorry, Nikki. The Wigg one I know for a fact. He will be playing at Adelaide next year.
Any idea what the hold-up is then? Is it just a matter of
I'm not sure what it is.
TPP management or?
No, I'm not sure what it is. Just that I know that he'll be with us next year.
Yeah.
Well, or it could be a case of we're holding things close to our chest, that we might have done those contracts. We've done this before, where the contract's been done for a while, but we haven't announced them yet.
Yeah.
Don't know why we'd be doing it, but that is something that we have done.
Don't know why we'd do that with Harry Wigg. I reckon if you think that Wigg, Deer, and Chaney and Thompson, so 4 out of those 6 are highly likely to be retained, it makes you think that they need wiggle room for salary cap. So I
Which
think
means we're after somebody.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what it seems to look like to me.
And then we also don't know what the full amount is for the new the new contracts that are going to go forward. So that also makes it a little bit difficult when you're trying to progress maybe a longer term deal for some players. If you don't know exactly what the cap is going to be, it does make it a bit hard.
Yeah, I can't remember what the timing is for the media rights has been in the past, but I can't remember it dragging on into postseason before.
It's normally not
or
this
next year. It's up next year, isn't it?
It's up next year, but they normally start talking about it, and we've got a fair idea.
Yeah.
And particularly because the AFLPA tend to jump up and down and start mentioning numbers. And they try to jump up and down early, but that's been kept fairly quiet since.
It's the quietest media negotiations I think we've had for ages. And, as a bit of an aside, I just wonder whether this is part of the AFL strategy of pulling more of the media in-house, which is, I think, the longer-term strategy from the AFL. A bit like the NFL does over there. They control a lot of their media. Telstra's had the digital rights for an eternity now. It just makes you wonder whether the AFL are restructuring that.
Yeah, it's
because they've done the radio rights already.
They have. But
Anyway,
the other one, it's a bit interesting.
So what else have we got in the news? Oh, yeah, Stewart won a Sandful flag.
Oh, apparently.
That was good news.
Moving on.
The other
That was
thing
really...
is...
Hang on, I'll just mute you guys
really
while we talk about the Stewart grand
is
final.
Grimes. Is Melbourne actually delisted their former co-captain?
That's a real fall from grace, isn't it? You got to feel sorry for the poor bloke.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Pete? I was a bit surprised, I got to say.
Understanding with that one is that he didn't quite have the relationship with Ruse that he had with the previous coaches, and wasn't really able to recover his position within the side. That's really as much as I know, and ended up, I think, from all accounts, played pretty well in the VFL. And I would have no doubt at all that someone will pick him up. He'll be playing football somewhere next year. He would be, I think, too good a player. If you put it in context of a delisted free agent, if you look at that, if that's what a club is looking for, and a number of clubs usually are, if you put him in the pool of DFAs, then he is going to be, right at the top of the pile.
You would think so.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
I was a bit surprised to read that he was 27, but you'd think that he still has, 3 or 4 good years as a second string midfielder to give a team, and without the shackles of the Melbourne Footy Club and all the history associated with that, he might just have a couple of good years in him.
Interesting. I thought when I saw the headlines, I assumed they're going to be talking about Jack Tringo, that they were going to delist him, and because there was some talk about him being delisted as well.
Yeah.
So because there was a little rumour that apparently we've asked for a medical on Trengove.
Yeah, hope not, but that would be quite possible. It'd be quite possible that we could look at someone like him and think you might be able to get him for a bargain and see what he can come up with. But
keep talking, guys. I'm just playing some background music.
Is that because we're talking about the Melbourne Football Club?
No, it's Jack Trengove, the old SNFL club.
Why's the Melbourne song?
Why's the Melbourne song on?
Actually, no, kid. This is what I'm confused about. Why did Norwood and Sturt both have the same song? Who had it first?
That song's used by about 1,000 clubs, Nikki.
I know, but not in the same league.
Yes, it is.
Not in the same league.
Absolutely.
They're the only two that I know that's in the same league.
Nah.
Very bizarre.
Come on.
It is really odd. Because I can understand,
what South song?
Melbourne,
you wouldn't probably know because they'd never sing it.
No, only before the game. No, it's the Carlton one. See, I know that.
Yeah, fine. Anyway.
Although I did ask Jason Tawney once at a Crows function, going, "What is South song?" He looked very offended at me.
It's the only club song with a teleprompter. Pete, you got any goss on the draft and trade situation?
Not too much. I don't. Just what's kind of been spoken about regarding Rockliffe a little bit.
What do you got, Pete?
Really just the... sorry. Can I just pass that to Nikki for a sec?
Sure. This is mad bloody.
We talked about. Yeah.
I'm renaming this episode "Mad Tuesday." Jesus Christ.
No, actually, I did like your title of "Is this thing on?" Because God, we hope it's not. Because we're sorry, everyone.
Well, it's only just yeah. Anyway, so what do we think about the finals results on the weekend? I thought that
I was annoyed at the second one.
Oh, well, I thought Sydney was pretty predictable, and it showed up Geelong.
That was nice to watch, though.
Yeah, it showed up Geelong for what their season was. It was a real a gift. Their season was a gift to them in terms of their draw, and in the end, they were shown up to be very light on for talent across the field, and they relied on Dangerfield, and that didn't come off. And Sydney are just a powerhouse at the moment.
Yeah, they did that little pressure thing to them, like we did again. But the interesting thing was there was a parallel between that game and our game in that they got out of their blocks quite early. They weren't as devastating towards the goals and scoring as to what they were against us. But then once they kind of got a bit of a lead, it was then, okay, now we're just going to go into a holding pattern. They couldn't seem to score after that, which was the same kind of thing against us.
Yeah, but,
and I reckon they could be in a bit of trouble, or whether that was a bit of self-preservation.
No, I don't forget they're coming off a 6-day break against us. I would have thought, I mean, they always had that game under control, just the same as they always had the game against us under control. And, you know, against us it was the first quarter demolition and then the last quarter putting it up beyond doubt. And the middle two quarters were just like they were toying with us, really. It was just back and forth footy, and I thought the Geelong game was quite similar. They did what they had to do early to get out to a lead, and then, you know, they really were never threatened. And I reckon they go into the grand final in pretty good nick, Sydney.
Yeah, I think it's theirs to lose. Be interesting if Aaliyah does get up or not. There's still talk that he might do.
I know they've PCL, kind of hasn't he? Is it a medial or a PCL?
Oh, hang on, I'll look that up.
Jesus.
What? Because I was avoiding all this news, AFL 360, etc., because all it was going to be was about how much Jared loves danger and, yeah, bugger off.
I'm pretty sure it was a PCL, and you'd think that he'd struggle to come back from that so quickly. They'll have to shoot him up pretty hard to get him out there. The interesting one for me is whether they risk Callum Mills 2 weeks on a hamstring. Normally not enough, and it will be pretty costly if he goes down during the game. If it was me, I wouldn't play him. What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah, you don't. You saw what we did taking in injured players. You really shouldn't take them in. Although they turned around Rowan quite quickly, very surprisingly.
Yeah, Rowan was an interesting one. He went down like he'd been shot from the stands, but it could have been a bit of an, I've had an ankle before where when you do it at the time, you think you've busted your ankle, and 2 hours later you're walking around as if nothing ever happened. It could have been one of those. But Mills with a soft tissue, I'd be really surprised if he gets up, and I'd be surprised if they play. If they play him, they're taking a big risk in my mind.
Now, 2 days ago, they said he was a bit of a chance to play, but I'm just checking to see what... They had some news yesterday, but I'm just checking to see what that one is.
Oh, look who's here.
The other one is Vane.
I bet I was there for bloody ages, but nobody could hear me.
Oh, there he is.
Well, you weren't here at the start, Macca. Jesus, what's going on?
Oh, look, is it my bloody fault if I've got visitors that won't go home?
Yes, pretty much. Certainly not our fault.
This is a professional outfit, Macca.
Oh, come on, mate.
When people are getting free drinks, they're very hard to move.
Well, I'm glad you're there, mate. And actually, it's a good opportune time. The Phoenix just asked me a little while ago about some any trade news, and I, in my infinite wisdom, passed that over because I had this premonition that you were going to hit on us at some point, Macca, and I was going to have a chat to you about the Tom Rockliffe situation. You happy to have a chat about that?
Yeah, happy to talk about that because at this stage, it's really back in our camp in the sense that Rockliffe is prepared to move, and his manager's made that pretty clear, not just to us but to other clubs. But it has also been said that his preference would be to come to Adelaide because it's a club that's got a premiership window. I think that the one thing that Adelaide are bulking about is the price, because he doesn't come cheap. And also the fact that he's got a back-ended contract of $800,000 for next year, which is one of the reasons why Brisbane know he's not particularly happy, and also they know that they've got $800,000 staring him in the eye, and they'd be happy to trade him for fair value. I'd love to see him in our Guernsey. Where it's at now, I don't really know whether we're going ahead with it or whether we're going to balk at it or whether... This is the other big unknown. Do we have somebody that is a preference to Rockliffe? And that's what I don't know.
When you say price, Macca, you're talking about his salary or the trade terms?
No, not with the trade terms. That hasn't been discussed because at this stage, Adelaide, if it has, I'm not aware of it, and my information goes to a certain degree, and it doesn't go to the last straw. Now, whether there is a last straw or not, I don't know.
Sorry. So what you mean is that it's the 800K that's the issue?
It's not just the 800K. It's the 800K if he wants that and a pretty solid figure for next year, for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah. So it's what the total package will cost, and but that I think won't be an issue in the long run because of the fact that the market as a whole is bulking at the figures that his manager originally mentioned. His manager said he's not being marketed, but he is.
Okay, I referred you. I got you to have a look at an article I wrote about a month ago on this, and my info at that time was that I thought that his contract was going to be around about 800,000. So that was around about the mark, and I think that my suggestion was that they effectively take that on but restructure it, and so that his back-ended contract for Brisbane becomes a front-loaded contract for us, and then we taper off into say years 2, 3, and 4, so that he ends up on an average of about 2 to 2.4 for the whole for 4 years, which would seem to be a reasonable going rate. If you average that out to say 600,000 a year, I think that's probably a reasonable going rate for someone of his quality, and also that encourages Brisbane in the sense that it gets them off their books, and I think that you'd get a reasonably decent trade out of them if you clear him off the books like that. I think the other alternative is if you're saying to Brisbane, well, you need to cough up part of his salary, then I think you're getting into a fairly high trade cost.
Because the other thing is, he becomes a free agent at the end of next year, so they would still have to pay that 800, and then they could lose him for nothing. So this way, they might get some players or some quality that they want. And the fact that Noble going to sit on both sides of the table, we know he likes doing a win-win in terms of the trade. So I think we've got an advantage there.
We've also got a disadvantage, Nikki, that he also knows exactly where we sit on the situation. Yeah. And he also knows what we've got in us in terms of normally you make a first, second, and third offer until eventually you haggle to an agreed position. But Noble's got the advantage of knowing what our agreed position finally would be if that's the way it goes.
Putting my tinfoil hat on for a moment, any possibility that the AFL placated Adelaide in terms of nicking Noble and chucking him in Brisbane on the basis of, it'll be a smooth trade for Rockliffe?
I wouldn't put that past. It's a nice thought, and I would not put it past him at all.
I would hope that would be the case, actually, because stealing Noble is at this stage of the season, and I mean it's necessary for Brisbane, but doing that to us takes a lot of IQ out of our network, and I mean he actually ran the network, so he knows the lot. So he's got all the information. It would be the right thing for the AFL to do to help broker a decent deal. But there's also the big question, of course, is do we have something we prefer to Rockliffe?
Yeah, I wonder whether we're going to make a play for Mitchell, maybe.
I think that I don't look. I think he definitely won't be with Sydney next year. But that I would have to think that he's a Victorian boy, and Hawthorn are making an offer. So if he can get to Hawthorn, I would think he'd go there.
I'll probably have to disclose at this point that I have heard a whisper of that name being bantered around, but it's unconfirmed source. So I'm not going to certainly not going to hang my hat on it. But I did hear that name mentioned today.
No surprise, because we did it. We were sniffing around the Sydney midfielders, not this year, but last year as well.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you? They've got enough of them.
Yeah.
I just can't see that you would get someone like that to Adelaide City.
Look, the fact that we shut down the Dusty rumours so quickly said to me that we've got something planned, or we've got an eye on the fire somewhere, because it seemed to me that we just didn't want to scare off the bloke that we're actually talking to. So whether it be Mitchell or whether it be Rockliffe or another one we haven't thought of. The other one at Brisbane obviously is Hanley. All reports say he's going to Gold Coast, but I wouldn't mind running him off a wing or on the outside in our midfield group either.
I'd love to be getting the both of them, quite frankly, because Rockliffe is a very good type for our midfield in terms of extracting the ball out in the middle and giving it to people running by. And if Hanley was one of those roaring by in our Guernsey, it'd look pretty good, I think.
The one who I would really love to go after from the games on the weekend, but highly unlikely it'll ever happen, would actually be Dylan Shields. I thought he was outstanding in GWS.
I just don't know how you get him here.
That's the thing. It'll have to be a lot of money.
He's only just signed a new 5-year contract, hasn't he?
Yeah, I misunderstood who you meant there, Nikki. I thought you were talking about Liam Shields from Hawthorn, who I wouldn't mind having a crack at, but
no, Dylan.
Not quite as star-studded as Dylan.
See, I don't.
But a very effective player.
I think all the available GWS talent is going to Silvani's number 2 GWS. Yeah, they seem to have about 3 or 4 of them stitched up, Marchbank and a couple others. So I don't think we're getting anything out of GWS this year.
Well, the other whispers,
highly unlikely.
Other whispers, we're having a crack at one of their players. Is it George Holland Smith?
Oh, please.
No, I've heard that as well, but I don't think there's any substance to it. I just think he's being bandied around. What about Hartlett? I had a lively discussion with my son today over the phone on Hamish Hartlett. I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
No, I had a conversation with somebody who knows a lot about the situation there, and I certainly wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
There you go. Is that the same reason he's on the outer at Port, Macca?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was my suspicion.
But that's the thing, though. You've just said that you wouldn't touch him, Macca, but are the club considering it?
Well, good luck to them. Let them have him.
No.
You mean us?
Nikki was asking
Adelaide.
whether we're considering him.
No, we're not. Definitely not.
Good.
That's good, because I think that for what they'd be wanting for him, it's just not. It's just not workable, either in terms of salary or trade cost.
He caused chaos amongst their ranks last year. and they were a very divided club, and we don't need him.
No. Does he end up at Brisbane? I reckon he ends up at Brisbane. They need some experienced midfield talent, and they can't be choosy.
What was it, Brisbane or the Gold Coast?
No, I don't reckon it's Gold Coast.
Could be either.
They've got enough culture problems up there, Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I reckon it's Brisbane, Macca.
That's why he might fit in it.
Look, to be honest, even with all those names banded around, I'm with you, Macca. I would be very, very happy to see Rockliffe in our side. I think he was an outstanding player in 2014. He was one of the best players in the league in 2014. Even this year, he had some injury problems. He still polled, three pointers last night. Even in a rotten team and with injury problems throughout the year, he could be something very, very good for us in a good side that we've got.
But the interesting thing is, I used to watch every game every week, and if he still kept trying, but you could tell he wasn't happy, and Hanley was definitely pissed off all year, did not want to be there.
And that's not good when you can actually actively see that occurring on the field.
Oh, the body language of Hanley was very poor. You could just tell he did not want to be there.
Well, in 2014, Rockliffe was number one in the league for disposals, number one in the league for disposal efficiency, and number one in the league for tackles, number 6 in the league for clearances. Now, you get a season like that out of him, and that makes a world of difference.
Well, you put him in a good system and take away the responsibility of captaincy so he can just play, and he's not holding up the midfield, and just let him play. He's obviously got the tools. He'd be an extremely good acquisition for us. The debate that we've been having today is whether you give up this year's first rounder for him or whether you try and engineer something that allows us to hang on to our first rounder. Because I don't really want to give up our first round pick if we can help it.
No, but
not in this draft.
That can be arranged, though. We could give up next year's first rounder.
I think that's what will happen, Macca. I think they'll give up next. My understanding is that they won't give up this year's first rounder, and they may even try and upgrade that a little bit to get a little bit higher in the draft. But they'll definitely be having a first round pick this year.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I think we have to.
People on the board.
And that's the thing is we track the draft a number of years in advance. I think it's like 2 or 3 years in advance that the draft is being tracked. So Ogilvy and his team would have a fair idea what's on offer this year, where we're finishing, and what's going to be on offer in future years. Yeah,
well, and the debate on the board today has been whether you sell the farm for a crack at the flag or whether you look at the overall health of your list. And we haven't had a decent dip at a elite, first round midfield talent for a couple of years now. And Greater Western Sydney and Gold Coast have had fair dibs at the talent for the last few years. So, from my perspective, it's ridiculous to suggest that you give away your first round draft pick in the first midfield deep draft that there's been since all that pillaging from GWS. And the people that are suggesting that we should, throw all that away just for a crack at Rockliffe and a potential crack at a flag, to me, just aren't looking at the bigger picture.
But the interesting thing is, what if that was the only way to get Rockliffe? And what would you do then? I would give it up then, because otherwise, if we don't, our midfield's going to be just an average midfield next year in terms of extraction of the ball.
I don't. If you have a look at our profile, Macca, I do agree with you that we need some talent in there in the 25 to 28-year-old group. Half our list is that age, and when you look at the talent in that list, particularly in the midfield, it's severely lacking. But like I said, we haven't got any gilt-edged gold midfield talent coming through our list. We've got some very good players, but we don't have someone of the quality of a Sloane or a Dangerfield coming through, at the 19 to 22-year-old mark. And if we dip out at this draft on getting someone of that talent or that potential talent, then, instead of knocking ourselves back 1 year, we might be knocking ourselves back 5 years. And to me, I just think that you do everything possible not to give away the first round pick this year.
I agree with you, and that's why I was talking about offering next year's first round pick, because that would be having your cake and eating it too. But it might be possible to arrange that. The interesting thing is that Rashudo made it very clear from his position from the board, and he virtually is the football man on the board. It was that we must bring in a grader into the midfield this year from outside. So when you look, if it's not Rockliffe, I've been scratching my head and I can't work out who it could be.
The only other one that I can think of, and I don't know,
I think he's obviously the front runner, Macca. Definitely the front.
Shut up, PJ.
Sorry, mate, you go.
The only other one I can think of is Ben Cunnington from North, and I don't think you're going to get him out of North when they're going through a regen at the moment. But he's up to free agency next year as well, so one to keep on the radar. But I don't know how we get him out of North.
Good player, but I don't put him in the same class as Rockliffe.
No, he's not, but he's probably good enough in terms of what we need, Macca. A ball extractor, a hard nut, doesn't shirk a contest. You know, when you talk about players that go up against Parker and Kennedy and Hanbury, Ben Cunnington is the kind of player that you can rely upon to go up and take a bit of the heat off of Matt Crouch. But I agree, not in the same class as Rockliffe.
No. The other name that seems banded about a little bit has been Gibbs.
Oh, God help us! God help us! And why would we?
Well, yeah, I tend to agree. It's just a couple of rumours floating around. Nothing that I'd be happy to hang my hat on, but there's a few rumours going around in relation to Bryce Gibbs, and I would just be. I think in the end, I'd just be so bloody annoyed that 2 years ago he could have come back as a free agent and cost nothing, and now that people would be talking about first round draft picks, and I just wouldn't do it.
Well, he's 28. No. He's 28, and we've got a 24-year-old Bryce Gibbs, and his name's Jared Lyons. So why give up a 24-year-old Bryce Gibbs to get the 28-year-old version?
Well, Gibbs is a bit classier, but he's not the hardest you've ever seen at the ball, and he obviously brings to play very well. And he gets most of his kicks not contested, but. And look, he's a good player, but no, he's not going to. He's not going to be the difference between us being a good side and an elite side, which is what Adelaide keeps saying.
No, if we're gonna trade, we need to trade for exactly what we need, and Bryce isn't exactly what we need. We've got plenty of soft halfback flankers.
Yeah,
probably actually slightly better than him.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I just digressing for one moment. I heard you playing that Stewart song all the time. I thought you would have played something dedicated to Woodville West Torrens, my team, something like The Last Post or something like that.
I couldn't find the Last Post or the Requiem or whatever the hell it is that they play, but commiserations, Macca.
They weren't good enough. Just plain weren't good enough.
I could have just played this sound. Because you bloody choked again. What the hell?
No, don't take anything away from Stewart. I thought they were too good.
No, you choked. Well, we were good, but you choked. Even your twos choked.
It can't be both.
Your twos have lost 2 games in the last 2 years, and they've both been grand finals. If that's not a choke, I don't know what is.
Yeah, look, no, you're actually taking a lot away from Kirkwood and the other boys, and Kirkwood, of course, you had to pinch from another club.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I thought just simply your midfield, and it always comes back into the midfield. The team with the best midfield always wins the flag.
Yeah, well, the better team and the better supporter base won on the day, Macca. So, but
I must say, and just for curiosity, Kirky, he's moved now, but he used to live around the corner from me.
Yeah, he's a good, solid player, Dane Kirkwood. You don't win a couple of McGarrys for nothing. And the thing I really liked, apart from obviously the result, and I'm taking the piss a bit, but the fact that we can still get 30k to an SANFL Grand Final when the Waffle and the VFL can barely get 20, and the AFL can't get more than 20 to a bloody prelim final, is indicative of the fact that there's still a fair amount of interest. I'm not going to say support, but a fair amount of interest in the traditional SANFL. Which isn't bad to see.
Well, 30,000, you'd have to say there would have been macaroons and scones everywhere with all the Stewart supporters there.
Oh, yeah. We could have chucked them all in the Thomas Seymour Cup too, Macca. So, winners are grinners, mate.
No, much too good. Sorry, I've hijacked the conversation, but I did want to actually say congratulations to Stewart anyhow for winning it, though. Far too good.
Sorry. There we go.
Sorry, back to where we were talking before.
Are you hosting this disaster, or what's going on? Because we're just totally off the rails here.
Mate, as soon as the SANFL came back on again, I just checked out. Because that to me is there we go. You see, to me it's we might as well be talking about the Essendon drug saga.
Aren't we going to cover that as well?
And particularly
November.
And particularly Stewart supporters, from what I saw at the prelim final when I went down to have a look at the prelim final, and a more feral, abusive bunch of supporters I have never seen in my entire life.
Bullshit. You've been to Elizabeth, you've been to Alberton. Come on now.
They were horrendous. They were absolutely horrendous.
I'll back Pete up because some of the comments at going to Unley and listening to comments there and then going out to Elizabeth. And yes, they do tend to get a little aggro out there as well. It's worse at Sturt.
Sour grapes on this podcast tonight is absolutely ridiculous.
I have said that before on the podcast.
I
have said that before. Going out to Sturt, they can be quite horrendous. And come on, they did have some issues with their cheer squad. Remember that?
All 9 of them?
And talk about a termite supporter base.
Culture.
This is a club.
No, actually, Pete, before you start getting on your big high horse, this is a club that in 2012 was on its knees, and is now.
I was just about to say that.
And is now, through hard work, good restructuring, and what else, going to not only win a flag but also turn another profit. Now, you can say what you like about Sturt, but that is a bloody good effort without any handouts. We were dead in the water 2 years ago, and I forget her surname, but Sue... Shit, I can't remember her name. Came in and oversaw a massive restructure. There's only about 3 paid employees at Sturt. The rest are all bloody volunteers. And the fact that we've been able to turn that around into a profit without any handouts from the SANFL, who basically turned their back on us, is a bloody good effort. And you can say what you like about Sturt, but to do those 2 things in such a short period of time is something that a lot of other clubs wouldn't be able to do in the SANFL, and they deserve the plaudits, or at least the recognition of being able to do that.
I'm sorry I raised it, Peter.
I absolutely agree. I agree with you, Phoenix. That there's no doubt that, and you actually took the words right out of my mouth, because I was just about to say that it's only a few years ago now that they were literally on their knees, and they have done a really, really good job. And you know what? None of that was due to 20-odd thousand supporters showing up to any of their games. It was still due to some support, though. You don't do that without a supporter base, Pete. You just don't do that without a supporter base. There's been a lot of fundraising. There's a lot of volunteers behind the scene that do things without getting paid at that club. Absolutely. No question about it. But like 20,000, they would have had... My understanding was that of that crowd, they would have had 2/3 of that crowd on Sunday, as I understand it.
Yep.
So where have they been?
Well, they've been watching the AFL just like every other bloody club, mate. I don't see many people coming out to watch Westies.
Why would you?
No.
Well, ask Pete. They're his club.
Yeah, but the difference is, Phoenix, is that no one ever used to come out. Even in the good old days, there was no one coming out to watch.
But that's actually a really good point. You know, between Nord, Sturt and Port, we've been the heartland of the SANFL in terms of supporters for a long period of time. You know, and Glenelg to a lesser extent. So it's not unusual to see that amount of people come out. But A, we've got a home ground that only fits 5,000 people anyway. B, a lot of our supporters are AFL supporters just like any other SANFL club. So I think it's a bit of a silly statement, to be honest.
You got a funny ground though, dogs wandering over it, shitting all over it.
I know, it's not ideal, Macca,
and it's not nice.
And it's bloody
it's
tiny.
Not nice to watch.
It's just tiny. But
Yeah.
what do you do? You know, I would love to see Sturt move out to Mount Barker, but up until recently, our heartland in the country has been the Murrayland, and the dickhead from Glenelg that's now running the SANFL took that away from us. But I reckon there's a big opportunity in the hills for Sturt to establish itself. And Unley is a postage stamp. We've never had the support of the local residents there because they're all up themselves and don't like cars parked around the oval every second week. I would have liked to have seen them move up into the hills, but I don't think that's going to happen now.
Anyhow, I hate Sturt, so can we talk about something else now?
Well, Phoenix and I had a nice chat a bit about the Sydney and the Geelong game, but did you guys watch GWS and those Bulldogs?
What a great game that was. And
it was a super game of footy. It was a super game of footy.
And GWS were robbed because with about a minute and a half to go, a minute and three quarters to go, I think it was Scully had the ball, and he was just in front of centre, and he had been paid a free kick, I think, or Mark, can't remember which. And one of the Bulldog players not only infringed by being inside running inside the 10-metre zone, but he was actually standing inside the 10-metre zone and stopping Scully playing onto his left-hand side.
No, he was on the move, Macca. He wasn't standing still.
But he was there at the time when Scully would have liked to have played on. And so it was an automatic 50-metre penalty.
Have you watched that back? Have you actually watched that again?
I haven't watched it again, why?
No, because it's been overblown. It would have been It has been overblown. Scully was still coming back. Scully was still coming back off the mark when that guy was trying to get out of the zone. So I don't think it was a 50-metre penalty, and you'd hate to see a close final like that decided by such a stupid rule.
I agree. I'm going with what the AFL have said. This isn't me saying. This is AFL.
Oh yeah.
And just backing up Phoenix there. The AFL did put out a tweet today, just the fact that it was looked at and it's been cleared by the AFL as the correct decision.
But yesterday it was the incorrect decision.
No, it wasn't the AFL that said that. It was the media that said that, Macca.
I thought it was the umpires coach. I thought said that yesterday.
No, I don't think so. I saw it brought up in, I think it was The Age or one of those papers, but I didn't see anything from the AFL yesterday.
And now let me qualify what I've just said by saying I'm glad it didn't happen anyhow, because it would. I'd hate to see a final loss by a technical rule like that, which I actually despise anyhow. I don't like the rule one little bit. But I thought I'd just mention in the sense that it could have been a different result because it was such a close game and such an excellent game of football. And everybody knows I have no love for the coach of the Bulldogs, but gee, what a mighty job they've done.
Yeah, pity about all the throws and all the hanging on they were doing on Cameron.
Speaking of the Bulldogs and Luke Beveridge, Nikki, did you want to have a bit of a cock-wombling numbnut award for this week?
Oh, what did he do?
Underground, overground, wombling free.
Well, I didn't watch too many of the news things or anything like that, so if you guys actually have some nominations, I'd be very happy to hear them. But I've kind of got two. One of them did come out of the GWS game, and it was the Channel 7 commentators who every time the Bulldogs threw the ball, their comment was, "Oh, the Bulldogs flicked that one out." It's like, yeah, it's called a throw. And the fact that there was then a throw paid, and it was paid against GWS, one for the entire game, and I don't know how many others we actually saw during that whole game. But the other one I thought a bit fun or more stupid on behalf of Channel 7 during the Brownlow coverage. So just to give their little précis of, the goal of the year is going to come up next. And so they show, and they show a couple of goals. You know, these are the ones that are all in contention. Except for the very last goal they showed was Nick Nat's goal against GWS. The one problem was that goal was actually not in contention because it never even got nominated in the round where it occurred.
You're right.
And they put it in there.
Because we talked about it at the time, didn't we?
Yeah, I gave it that. I'm pretty damn sure we actually gave that one.
Yeah,
Whoever came up with that they won it that week for the cock-wobbling numbnut. The fact that Channel 7 put it in. Now, either they've got somebody who's stupid, which, you know...
Well, they just wanted to paper over the mistake.
Or they kind of wanted to throw some shade at the AFL or whoever decided going, because you didn't put this goal in.
Can I nominate, I'm not sure whether it was Channel 7 or Foxtel, one of the two, but the prelim final coverage on Friday evening, Sydney-Geelong. Now, half-time in that game, and bearing in mind that the Sydney midfield has ripped the heart out of Geelong in that first half and absolutely destroyed them. And what do you think the TV goes with? Of course, they go with a piece on Paddy Dangerfield. And if you don't mind, they've got two or three of the Sydney midfielders lined up and asking them, just how difficult it's going to be to play on Paddy and what they're going to need to do. And they have still gone with this piece of rubbish, even though those Sydney midfielders have absolutely destroyed Geelong in the first half. Now, that is worthy of a nomination.
That was Foxtel.
I think the bigger cockwomble in that situation, Peter, is Paddy himself, because at the end of the day, he gets to say yes or no about whether he does shit like that. And it's even if he was playing for Adelaide this year, I'd be cringing at the amount of bloody fapping going on about Patrick Dangerfield and the fact that he invites it and plays on it. Even at the Brownlow last night, it was like he won an Academy Award the length of the speech that he gave. And, he's a great player. It's a shame we lost him and all the rest of it. But the unmitigated adulation about Patrick Dangerfield in the Victorian media is just cringeworthy. And he's complicit in that because he says yes to everything.
That's where he's getting his extra money from.
I was going to say, for the money that he's getting, I would too.
But he doesn't have to.
You're right, it's been cringeworthy. And it's almost, you look at the line of defectors that we've had, Tippett and Gunston, and these guys, they're gone and forgotten about. But, with Dangerfield, it's just in your face every bloody week. It's just, and in the end, you just can't stand the sight of him.
If you were an AFL player, Pete, would you want to punch the guy in the face? I mean, it's not as if he's the only bloke that comes from a place that he likes to call home and yada, yada, yada. Like, anyone that would think that Moggs Creek is like Jerusalem or something and he's the bloody second coming of God. If I was another AFL player, I'd be getting pretty sick and tired of it. You wouldn't mind sitting him on his arse, I don't reckon.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's very hard to argue about that. But it's the Victorian media's fault, really, because of not really Paddy's. I mean, he's got a massive ego, and he'll take whatever they serve up to him, and let him talk, because he's got an open goal of being in the media down the track. But the media treat him as if he virtually didn't exist before, and all of a sudden they've discovered this marvellous player amongst their Victorian ranks, and he's called Patrick Dangerfield. He was only regarded as a good player here, but now he's the player.
You bet your life, if it wasn't for Bruce McAvaney last night, he wouldn't have mentioned Adelaide Football Club once in his acceptance speech. And it was only Macca that guided him through that actually drew his attention to the fact that, oh yeah, perhaps I should acknowledge the club that I spent 8 years at.
7, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. I thought it was funny that McAvaney actually pointed out that we were good enough to let him stay in Victoria in his first year. However,
did he?
Yeah, he did. He said, you know, if it wasn't for Adelaide letting you stay in Victoria in your first year and do your year 12, you know, it would have been a lot harder for you.
Okay.
I think Peter's right. I think Patrick deserves it.
Deserves what?
A nomination.
A nomination for the cock wobbling thing.
Oh,
Was a combination of him and Fox.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I was listening to Triple M on the way home tonight, and so, of course, it's Brownless and Brayshaw. And Brayshaw made a little comment, because they actually talked about the ad, his surfing ad, and, you know, how good it is, etc., etc. And Brayshaw came out with, yeah, Paddy's not going to knock back anything that's going to give him that much money. So I think it's very well known how much money's been thrown his way amongst the Victorian media.
Well, you know, tinfoil hat time again. It makes you wonder whether there was a bit of a group effort to get him back to Geelong, and whether there was a few phone calls made saying, you know, don't worry, pay him $650 because we're going to chuck a couple of hundred his way anyway.
Oh, probably
Didn't
right.
I say that last year?
Yep.
That the AFL
no
were
doubt that would happen.
actively pushing it because Victoria needed a win.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to seeing Geelong slide down the ladder next year, and I reckon it's going to happen because, you know, their ageing players continue to drop off, and I don't see that they're in a very good position from a list management point of view, and I reckon they were flattered this year by their ending position on the back of an easy draw, and I reckon they might find it a little bit harder next year.
Yep. And
Now, is Enright going to retire?
Oh, you
He
think
looked-
so?
he looked like a man that was definitely retiring by the way he acted.
Yeah.
I think it's spot on there, Phoenix, because what was so important, I mean, obviously they had the two star midfielders, but what was so important to them this year was their defence and that experienced defence. And, you know, Mackie is another one who could just as easily go this year, and Enright, and then all of a sudden it starts to, you know, when those guys start to pull out,
Lonergan.
it's going to look very thin. Lonergan.
Yes, it's falling apart there.
And somebody made a point. If Dean Gore last year, only playing half a season, came second or third in the Geelong VFL team, and yet he finished well down in AS playing the full season, does that tell you what Geelong's depth is actually like?
Well, Dean Gore didn't fire a shot for us this year, really. So he's either had a shit year or his form was overstated in the twos down there. You're right, Nick. And they don't. I mean, it's quite clear that they don't, because otherwise they wouldn't have sold the farm for Henderson, Dangerfield and bloody Scott Selwood, of all people. And why they're putting so much store in Nakia Cockatoo. They'll put Motlop on the trade table this year and try to get, you know, overs for him again, but no one will want to touch him with a barge pole. They're in a bit of strife, Geelong, and good luck to them. They've had a good era. But this whole media frenzy around Dangerfield and the Geelong Football Club is getting a bit tiring now.
Yep, and sour grapes on my part, but I do hope that Paddy never plays in a premiership with Geelong, and I do hope that we can snag one or two while he's still playing with Geelong, and just to really stick it up him, because I was pretty resentful about him leaving. Anyhow,
well, on the
that's
back of that,
another-
Macca, who do you want to win this week? Because we've got Tippett obviously playing in a grand final for the Swans.
Yeah, well, Tippett's not much chop, is he?
It's like,
I'm well and truly over Tippett, you know. So, you know, if he was born there, wasn't he? So if he wins a flag, so be it. It really pissed me off with Gunston, but you know, the guy, he was a smart kid. He went back and he's played in 3 flags as a youngster. But as far as Tippett's concerned, no, just watching him play with other clubs, I can't understand why we were so gaga over the guy.
I think you're right,
He's
Mac.
kind of stagnated a little bit.
I don't think he is anywhere near as irritating as the whole. And Phoenix, what you say about the whole Dangerfield situation is absolutely correct. And it's just it's in your face, and you just don't want him to win a thing. But having said that, I think I can still go back. My bitters can still go back far enough for Tippett and want the Bulldogs to win on the weekend.
No, I hate the Bulldogs.
No, the only reason I want the Bulldogs to win is because I feel for the people who've supported them for 50 odd years without seeing any success, and I kind of put myself in their shoes in terms of following the Crows, and even though we're up to 20 odd years now, that feels bad enough, and imagine enduring that for your whole life. So Sydney have had some success recently, and whilst I'm not a huge fan of the Bulldogs, I think for their supporters it'd be great to have them see their team win a flag.
Yeah, I'm not that fond of their supporters because of the whinging and the blaming everybody else, and they're following on Beverage and the same sort of thing. And I remember 97 and 98, and they can get stuffed.
But
I have a long memory.
I don't really care. I'm totally ambivalent, and I'll watch the game and I'll enjoy it, and I hope it's close, and I hope it gets down to just one or two things at the end of the game. And it's such a good game because I don't really care about either.
Who do we think will win, by the way?
I was going to say, do you want to do some tips?
Yeah, we can't not do tips.
Do we want to decide who's Cockwomble, by the way?
Oh yeah, who's Cockwomble? Jesus, stay on. Who's the bloody host tonight? Come on, Peter.
He's the one who kind of derailed with the Danger and the Fox Footy thing as a nomination. So do you want that or over the Channel 7 stuffing up by putting in Nick Nat's goal that wasn't even in contention?
I reckon Channel 7 as well, for bloody having Luke Darcy as a freaking commentator on the Western Bulldogs prelim made that whole game cringeworthy to listen to. Like, come on now. Let Darcy do the other one or stick him on the freaking boundary or something. But to have him cheerleading all game and him with BT, yeah. Channel 7's commentary has been unbearable all season.
Well, I'm just going to have
losing the best one.
A late nomination. What about Phoenix for promoting his scone squad all the time?
My what?
Promoting the scone squad, Stewart.
Come on.
Oh, God, no, don't get back on that.
No,
all right. I'm now going to do some hosting. Right, let's move on.
I'm going to go with Channel 7. I agree. Channel 7 for multitude of sins this weekend.
Channel 7, and so that closes that segment. Phoenix, do you want to chuck a little bit of music for that?
It's a grand
here we go.
You just made the cat look at me funny.
Right, we're going to do tips for the grand final, and then we're going.
Oh, scones all around for that one.
Hang on, is there jam and clotted cream?
Tip for Saturday.
Tip for Saturday, Stewart. No, I mean Sydney, but I hope the Bulldogs win, but I think it'll be Sydney.
Yeah, but I'm the same as Phoenix. I would like to see the Bulldogs win, I suppose, but don't really care, but I think it will be Sydney.
Nikki?
Yeah, I said earlier when you disappeared away that I think it's Sydney's to lose.
I'm going to go against the grain. I think that the Bulldogs have taken all before them, and I think there's absolutely no reason why they can't do it again. Both teams have played. This will be their fourth final for both of them, and so there's no team has got an advantage in that way. And so I think that the Doggies, for mine, they just seem to just in a rich vein of form at the moment. So I'm happy to tip them. All right,
Pete. Just before you wind it up, question. I missed the early part of it. Did you?
Bad luck, Macca.
No.
Jesus.
This might be for next. Shut up. This might be for next. This might be for next week. Have we discussed at all, or did you discuss at all, who we might be trading out this year?
Oh, we're doing that another time.
And that's what I said. It might be one for next week.
Keep up.
Look, just keep munching those bloody scones.
I haven't heard anything other than Jared Lyons as being the primary person that appears to be on the trade table. The fact that CNY, right? That's it. I can't stand the song anymore.
We've had enough. We're going.
Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate listening in. Don't forget, we will continue to do Tuesday Night Live through the trade week. Keep up to date with all the information, and don't forget also we've got our summer series coming, which will be covering all the summer sport. Great to have you along this evening as always, and thanks very much to the panel tonight, and thanks to Phoenix for the double blues injection. It's been terrific.
Well, we needed a bit of class.
Sarcasm.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, and don't forget we're doing articles daily on Crows Fan Central about the list situation at the Crows, and also keeping people up to date with any gossip and rumours and inside word that we might have. So crack onto the website as well. But as Pete said, we'll be back next Tuesday and every Tuesday for the rest of everyone's lives.
And everybody have a nice, safe, long weekend.
Yep. Good night, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.
It's a grand